Hey there folks, it's Mark, host of Spectrum Pulse here. You all know what it is, cause it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. So I get the funny feeling that a lot of people are going to forget this week pretty quick. The sort of Billboard Breakdown episode, probably more notable for what's not happening than what is. No album bombs, no significant chart shakeups that seem like they're going to last. And yes, I know that for some of you, either the BTS arrival or Lil Uzi Vert's continued attempts to get something to stick will contradict me. But while I've been wrong predicting what's going to last in the Hot 100 before, I get the feeling I'm not going to be that wrong with this one. Of course, a big reason why I'm predicting this stasis comes out of our top 10, where for another week, Old Town Road by Lil Nas X and Billy Ray Cyrus holds sway at number 1. It's got the streaming and YouTube on lock. The sales remain better than I expected, and while I get the impression the radio might be playing this song more out of obligation than anything else, it does have more traction there than I was expecting. And while I could say that Wow by Post Malone has a shot to catch it as it's up to number 2, even with a good sales week, the streaming is lagging and the radio push has lost some momentum. Aloe puts it above Sunflower by Post Malone and Sway Lee at number 3, pretty much on radio alone, where that song is better in streaming and sales, but is bleeding radio fast. The decline might be sharper there than everyone else is predicting. Next we got 7 Rings by Ariana Grande at number 4, where I'm comfortable saying it might be on its way out with drops across the board. It has some stability in all categories, so it's going to stick around. The drop might be slow, but it is declining, although not as fast as Without Me by Halsey at number 5, which might have a bit more residual radio, but is falling there faster and has weaker sales and streaming overall. Now the song primed to pick up the most from all this is probably Sucker by the Jonas Brothers at number 6, which surged up to grab the top spot on the radio, even as the sales and streaming just aren't moving as much. Not a good sign for longevity. If the radio stalls out, we will have to see, but even it is going to be facing some competition for our breakthrough into our top 10 with Dancing with a Stranger by Sam Smith and Normani at number 7. And here we're also dealing with a real radio push in absence of streaming, but I think the slight sales advantage might give this the upper hand going forward. It might just pass Sucker in the long run. But then we get the real story breaking into our top 10, Boy With Love by BTS featuring Halsey breaking the top 10 at number 8. And here's the thing, while I normally expect K-pop to fall off hard after the first week, this one might actually have some legs. Yeah, most of it is sales and streaming right now, but BTS has been fighting for the foothold for some time, and the Halsey feature might be what they need to get it. Now, of course, I'm much more interested in the top 10 return for Bad Guy by Billie Eilish at number 9. Good sales, great streaming, and YouTube, and it looks like someone finally sent this to radio, even if she's facing a real uphill battle there. But finally, we've got Please Me by Bruno Mars and Cardi B holding at number 10, but if the radio keeps tanking like it is, because radio is pretty much all it has, it's not going to be in the top 10 for long. And while we're on that topic, our losers and dropouts. And in the latter category, there are none worth talking about. I'm serious, nothing there's got serious traction or strength, and when we're looking at our losers, I'm not all that wowed either. I mean, of course Billie Eilish is going to take a couple losses. Wish You Were Gay went down to 64, and My Strange Addiction hit 88, and the expected debut crashes happened as well, as expected, with Kill This Love by Blackpink hitting 73, and Cool by the Jonas Brothers at 75. I'd say that it's nice that the quality's winning out here, but we also saw losses for Saturday Nights by Khalid off his album bomb last week to 86, and Last Time That I Checked by Nipsey Hussle featuring YG fell to 92. Kind of a shame, that's probably my favorite of the Nipsey Hussle songs that I covered. Lastly, we've got country with There Was This Girl by Riley Green failing to take off at 98, and Tequila by Dan Shay losing all the gains down to 49. Frankly, given its longevity, I would question if it lasts another week on the Hot 100. Now, I wish I could say more about our gains here and our returns that they would be more interesting, but in truth, the latter categories got clout by Offset and Cardi B at 72 off the video, On My Way to You by Cody Johnson at 100. It's a good song, but it's not all that compelling, and I'm So Tired by Lowe and Troye Sivan at 94. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? Now, I will say that the gains look a little more promising. Yeah, I'm not that wild about Shug by DaBaby up to 51, or Don't Call Me Up by Mabel at 67, but I get the appeal of both these songs. And more importantly, while I'm pleased to see Pop Out by Polo G featuring Lil TJ at 74, what I'm much happier to see is Big Ol' Freak by Meg Thee Stallion at 84. She might have a long climb ahead of her to the top, but she has more radio presence than you would expect, and I just hope that'll be the kickstart that she needs, because again, I think she's got real potential. But I'll say this when we get to our new arrivals. Okay, look, there's a couple of eclectic surprises this week, and most of it's not good, starting off with number 96. Hey Look Ma, I Made It by Panic at the Disco. So I remember briefly touching on this song when I reviewed the album last year, and I'm sorry, why does the main synth lead sound like it's imported from an Eric Taxon album? And that would be fine if it matched any of the attempts at opulence in the strings or that warping horn mix, but the production problems with Panic at the Disco's latest album are still as apparent as ever, even before they tack on the compression and a trap hi-hat. It's top-heavy, no body in the mid-range, and nothing close to a genuine groove. Hell, I'd probably take high hopes over this, if only for a decent pre-chorus build-up and a consistent sense of emotionality. Yeah, I know, it's all tongue-in-cheek, it's sarcastic about the music industry and hangers-on and more money, more problems, and how flimsy it all can be. But doesn't that kind of undercut any attempt at a big triumphant hook like this, where the language almost feels a little bit more childlike and innocent? Again, the production issues are worse than any frustrations I might have with the content, as this feels like an underwhelming retread of ideas that High Hopes did better. No surprise it's the next single. But I mean, can't you just give a proper push to Say Amen Saturday Night, Brendan Urie? Probably be better than this. Number 95, Make It Right by BTS. Okay, first of two BTS projects, and I heard word that this album was a little bit underwhelming in comparison with previous BTS releases, so I didn't exactly have high expectations, but apparently this was co-written with Ed Sheeran, and you can kind of tell in some of the vocal harmonies and generally understated vibe. But again, isn't most of the appeal of K-pop the flash and the color? This sounds like a sandy bit of underweight trap pop linked to a muted melodic loop that again sounds like something that Eric Taxon would have put out a year ago. Now, I will say this, it's a much more balanced song, and it generally flows pretty well, and lyrically, it might be an easy layup to highlight how all the fame and success doesn't compare to the journey to getting to you, but the rap verses really feel overstated, especially opposite some of the more delicate vocal harmonies, and like all translations, I'm stuck feeling that the song might feel kinda hyperbolic, might work better in the original Korean. Still though, not bad. It's alright. I don't mind this. Number 81, Love Ain't by the Eli Young Band. So remember when the Eli Young Band was a thing? Kind of a trick question, given that the Eli Young Band are one of those country acts that saw a lot of their momentum evaporate trying to chase bro country, and the poor single choice meant that their 2014 album underperformed. I mean, seriously, what does? It was on the album. It was right there. And then their 2017 album went nowhere, so here's a single from their newest greatest hits project. And I guess I can appreciate them trying to stick with the times and more of the sharper acoustic rollick and what sounds like more of an organic groove, at least until the bridge. But I've never been fond of the song that's clearly trying to emulate a cross between Taylor Swift's You Belong With Me and Break Up With Him by Old Dominion, where I'm just not remotely convinced that our frontman here has the charisma to pull this off without sounding kind of sour or pissy, especially with the way this song is structured. Honestly, this might have gotten more traction thanks to the video than anything else, because while this might be mildly catchy, I'm just not sure this is one I'm gonna revisit all that much. Not terrible, but again, I know what they can do. They can be better than this. Number 76, That's a Rack by Lil Uzi Vert. You know, it's funny, when you keep hearing rumors that Lil Uzi Vert is retired and pretty much nobody has bought it, he's trying to secure a better management deal. That's all this is. But I reckon that for all the loose tracks that Lil Uzi Vert keeps leaking with no sign of a turtle to take anywhere, he might be in for bigger trouble with sustaining an audience that cares for hearing more from him, especially if he doesn't have another EXO tour life that just clicks. And the exasperating thing is that if this song wasn't utterly swamped out by the bass, the production production kinda has some potential. The fractured synth and the piano lead off the main, there is a hook there. I could kinda dig the production. But it's just a shame that Lil Uzi Vert seems to be an utterly unlikable little turd on this cut. From his fucking done attitude to your girl, the worthless brand name bragging, telling your girl that her breath stinks, and let's not forget the transphobia that came right the hell out of nowhere. Honestly, I've got no even idea why it's even here. Lil Uzi Vert has already proven with this song that he's not counting bars to structure his verses, and all it's building up to is a line about his Lucian sunglasses that are the only thing that's tran on him. So it's just pointless bigotry, and it just fills up space. So yeah, once again, Lil Uzi Vert proves that he adds little to nothing to the scene, and probably could have been left behind a good solid 2 years ago. And if his oily crooning won't get him out, this might as well. Ugh. Next, number 68, SOS by Avicii featuring Aloe Blacc.
We could be more than just part-time lovers.
So am I the only one just kind of skeeved out that we're getting a posthumous Avicii album, like a year later? I've said this about a lot of the posthumous releases recently, and it's all the more true with this, especially when it just so happens to feature Aloe Blacc, who saw his biggest success on the charts with Avicii. Now, granted, apparently Avicii had created the melody and the instrumental before he passed away, and all was needed was Black's vocals and some writing, but there's still something that doesn't work with me on this, especially with the writing being all about ditching drugs to be more than part-time lovers. And given how Avicii passed away, it hits a really weird note. Now, granted, I'm not really crazy about the instrumentation either, with that main plucky melody that plays off the stumbling tropical fizz of the beat and the pianos. I thought the biggest appeal of a lot of Avicii's production was how much it could soar, how big and epic it felt. So why are we getting this brittle little fragment that doesn't even have much of a crescendo or an impressive drop? It honestly feels more like a Jack U instrumental than something from Avicii. I mean, it's not bad, but I'm not covering the posthumous album. And this song, it didn't change my mind. Number 66, Blue on Black by Five Finger Death Punch featuring Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Brantley Gilbert, and Brian May.
It's like blue on black.
Okay, there are a lot of things that need to be explained and why this is here, and it starts off with the fact this is a cover of a country blues rock song from 1998. That was released by Kenny Wayne Shepherd and was really his only song that had any sort of mainstream crossover, most because it sounds like an also-ran of this sort of bluesy tone that grunge gave some real muscle in the early 90s, and yet was kind of really played out by 1998. So when I heard that Five Finger Death Punch was teaming up with country also-ran Brantley Gilbert and Brian May of Queen of all people to remake it, I had rock bottom expectations. And that might have been appropriate, because this is a pretty rote and forgettable cover. Yeah, Five Finger Death Punch, they had a little bit of metal crunch to the hook, but Ivan Moody is stuck trading lines with Brantley Gilbert, whose more guttural tone could have potentially added some real darkness and edge to the song if he had any chemistry with Ivan Moody, or if, you know, he could actually sing. Yeah, Brian May's solo is good, but it's not elevating this to the level of Queen-era bombast. Hell, I'm not even sure it gets to Disturbed Sound of Silence bombast, and it doesn't escape how the song could have genuinely killed if, say, Alice in Chains covered it instead, actually got to the emotional roots of the song. So yeah, it's not precisely terrible, but if you got only an okay song and you don't do anything all that interesting with your cover, you wind up being kind of boring that with only the sales thanks to the novelty of the crossover. I don't expect this to stick around, rock radio, though, and honestly, good riddance. We don't need more Five Finger Death Punch. Number 28, Sanguine Paradise by Lil Uzi Vert.
I don't wanna see your face. I'ma go and get behind.
Oh, seriously, we got more of this guy. Okay, can somebody explain to me what flow he's attempting with these verses? Where it's not even like Blueface, where he's offbeat to be interesting. He's just incompetent. Yeah, the hook pulls things a little bit closer together on beat, and again, I think the bouncier pianos playing off the synth horn shows some okay production, even if the bass is again overlayered. But we're still stuck with Lil Uzi Vert, a mediocre rapper who just has nothing interesting to say and little actual charisma to say it with. Taking your girl and her eating his dick like a fish stick, a lot of clumsy brand name flexing, a Geico reference, and a wonky shout out to an interpolation that I get the feeling I would enjoy more than this song. I mean, it's marginally better than the other one, but I'm not seeing this stick around, and I'm just fine with that. Can we just get rid of Lil Uzi Vert? He adds nothing. And finally, number 8, Boy With Love by BTS featuring Halsey. So okay, my general thinking with this song is that it's gonna be kind of overstuffed because BTS already has a lot of different voices and a lot of clash, and throwing Halsey into the mix isn't exactly gonna add quality. And honestly, the more I listened to this, the more I was convinced Halsey should never have been on this song. I mean, she fits lyrically, but her raspier tone doesn't remotely match with the rest of BTS, and the layering does not complement her vocal placement, especially with all the layers they drop over the hook. And the frustrating thing is that once you factor her out, and how I still think the switch-ups to the trap verses is a lot more clumsy than it should be, but that's an issue I will have with modern K-pop and BTS. But this is a pretty slick pop song otherwise. The low, wiry tones punching into the low end, the sharper bass groove, the guitars, the breathy, boyish vocals, they certainly blend better than whatever the Jonas Brothers are trying to work with on Sucker or Cool. And when paired with the breezy feel of the song, I mean, it's insubstantial, it's bubblegum, but BTS honestly do it pretty well, and I do think it's a little bit stickier than their other debut this week. Okay, yeah, screw it. Boy With Love by Halsey and BTS, it's the best of the week with the slim pickings we have, and I guess Make It Right is the honorable mention. Yeah, BTS gets both of them this week. Fans, have fun. And for the worst, yeah, that's a rack by Lil Uzi Vert, runs away with that one, but he's also gonna get dishonorable mention for Sanguine Paradise. Yeah, by some miracle, Five Finger Death Punch and Brantley Gilbert were saved by just being kind of boring instead of insufferable. Next week, again, few if any mainstream breakthroughs, so we might have a little bit more of a breather before Taylor Swift unleashes her newest single, so stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.